Hey! Hi, how you doing? This is Ryan, and welcome back to the Gamertron Show. I want to say for at least over a year now, quite a few of you have been asking me in the comments section and in DMs, what are my thoughts on the current state of the video game Destiny 2? What did you think of this expansion? What did you think of this season? I hear over and over, time and time again, and it's a fair question, because the Destiny franchise and its developer, Bungie, are some of the most curious cases in all of gaming. Destiny is strange, and Bungie is even stranger. Everyone's got their own issues with Destiny and Bungie, but there are literally millions of people around the world whom, despite those issues, still play the game regardless. And guilty as charged, I'm one of those people. So for those of you who don't know, I quite like Destiny 2. I've been with Destiny 2 on PC since the beginning in 2017. I have played through every expansion. Every piece of story content, you name it, I've played it. I have almost every single exotic in the game, except for the exotics tied to the raids, because I don't play raids. Just a very time-consuming endeavor. And having to get 6 people together to play them is a pain in the ass. I describe myself as a casual, hardcore Destiny player. Like, I don't live and breathe Destiny, but I admittedly play it a fair bit. The primary reason I like Destiny, I play Destiny, and I've put so many hours into it, and I'm going to continue to put many more hours into the game, is simply put, I quite enjoy the gameplay. Destiny 2, I would argue, has some of the best first-person shooter mechanics and gunplay, well, ever, honestly. I'd put it right up there with games such as Doom, Titanfall, Halo, Wolfenstein. In terms of games with the best feeling, most satisfying first-person shooter gunplay, gameplay, just really fucking solid, polished, well-made first-person shooter mechanics. I just enjoy Destiny's gameplay so much that I'm willing to put up with its many flaws, its many issues. Because shooting and killing aliens with badass guns and flashy space magic just feels so good. That's where I am, that's just how I feel about Destiny 2 in general. Now, when it comes to its latest expansion, Beyond Light, I would argue that it was a great expansion by itself. When we're not looking at the peripherals and all the context surrounding the expansion, the actual Beyond Light content is great. The new planet, location, play space, however you want to describe it, Europa, it's just stunning. It's stunningly fucking beautiful. Some of the absolute best work the level designers and the artists over at Bungie have ever created. The new story campaign was good. Not as good as the story campaign in the Forsaken expansion, but still good. We had an actually interesting and fleshed out and developed villain to confront with Aramis. The combat encounters were a ton of fun, as always, and a decent challenge. The new darkness abilities and powers, the new darkness subclass. Stasis is a ton of fun. I really like the new stasis powers. Having the ability to actually freeze enemies creates an interesting new dynamic in combat gameplay. All the new exotic weapons and armor are awesome, and all of the post-campaign content, the additional story quests and a couple of new game modes and activities are all great. A ton of fun. When it comes to the Beyond Light expansion and its content, I quite liked it. I enjoyed myself. Not a lot of complaints on that end. But when we get to the stuff surrounding Beyond Light, the new implementations and changes that came with the Beyond Light expansion, that's a whole other story. I'm of course talking about sunsetting and content vaulting. Now, when these things were first announced, I was okay with it. It made sense to me at the time why they were making these choices. Like with sunsetting, there are still players using weapons from year 1, not even trying out any of the new weapons added since the first year of Destiny 2. So from a developer point of view, it makes sense to try and force players who are being stubborn and refusing to try out any of the new weapons to be like, hey, okay, if you want to do endgame content, you have to play with some of the more recent weapons. That made sense and seemed fair to me at the time. And when it comes to content vaulting, that also made sense since Destiny 2, before the vaulting, was a very bloated game. It was a massive game with a ton of activities. And for a new player, a new free-to-play player, it was arguably a directionless mess. There's all this content, but you have no idea where to start, or how to access half of it. And there's just some planets and game modes that almost no players interact with, so it makes sense to vault a bunch of content and make Destiny 2 a cleaner, tighter, more focused experience with a less fragmented pool of activities to pick from. But then the Beyond Light expansion was released, and sunsetting and content vaulting was implemented. And like just about everyone else, I don't fucking like it. It boggles my mind how poorly implemented these additions, or in this case, subtractions are. And it just leaves me with a laundry list of whys to ask Bungie why. Why did you sunset all of the legendary weapons and armor from the last 2 expansions? Why did you sunset armor at all? What's the point of masterworking armor now? Why spend all of those resources to upgrade and masterwork your armor if that armor isn't going to be viable for any endgame content a few months from now? It's a waste of valuable resources that you spend days, weeks, months grinding for only to use them to get a temporary buff? By sunsetting armor, I now personally have zero interest in masterworking any armor. Why put in that time and effort if it's not going to matter come the next expansion? But hell, that's just all weapons and armor in the game now. There's so little incentive to farm or grind or keep hunting after that god roll weapon or piece of armor. None of that loot will be viable for endgame anymore come next expansion due to the obtuse and artificial power level cap. So why should I grind or farm or chase for god rolls? Why would you fuck with the progression system in this way, Bungie? Why? Like, I understand from a certain point of view what you were trying to accomplish. You want to keep players, now that you're a free-to-play game, you want to keep players on that constant treadmill, that constant progression treadmill of always earning new armor and new weapons and not getting complacent with whatever they have now. You want players constantly grinding and farming for all the new loot that comes with a new season or expansion. I get that. But what incentive do I have to loot or farm or grind at all if everything I collect is gonna be worthless in a few months? All you have to do is look at your competition, look at The Division, look at Borderlands, look at Warframe. They don't do this sunsetting bullshit. And the sad thing is about all of this, sunsetting could have been fine had you implemented it in a limited capacity and not made it just such a sweeping change that affected like the majority of weapons and armor in the game. I mean, just how, Bungie? How could you have thought that this was going to go over well? Like, no one at Bungie spoke up and said, hey, maybe we're kind of killing incentive to loot in our looter-shooter by doing this? Thank God, at the very least, that all exotic weapons and armor will always be viable since they don't have a power level cap. Thank God. It's so strange. Destiny 2 used to be a genuine looter-shooter where you grind and farm for new loot, new weapons and armor. But since the launch of Beyond Light, I'm no longer grinding and farming for weapons and armor. Instead, I'm grinding and farming for XP just to level up my season pass. From my point of view, Destiny 2's progression system has now become all about the season pass, Destiny 2's version of the battle pass. Now, I quite like Destiny 2's battle pass, its season pass. I find it satisfying to unlock new stuff through the pass. I find the amount of content you get with the pass worth the money. And as the seasons have gone by, the free track has only become more and more lucrative and generous. It's just a bit of a shame now that Destiny 2's progression system is now so reliant on the season pass battle pass as an incentive to keep playing the game, outside of just enjoying the gameplay. For me, it used to be enjoy the gameplay and constantly strive to unlock all the weapons and armor I can. Now it's enjoy the gameplay and earn as much XP as possible as efficiently as possible. I honestly believe that Destiny 2 had the best progression system during the era of the Shadowkeep expansion. It was a fun mix of chasing after new loot that mattered and was viable, while also leveling up and unlocking cool stuff via the season pass. When it comes to sunsetting, I really think they just overdid it. They sunsetted too much loot. And having all the new loot you obtain essentially come with a time limit of how long it will be viable for endgame, it's just a very unsatisfying feeling. Obtaining brand new loot, new weapons and armor just isn't as exciting now, which is a damn shame. Speaking of damn shames, content vaulting. Just like sunsetting, Bungie overdid it. They vaulted too much. They took too much content out of the game. While Destiny 2 before Beyond Light was certainly bloated, it was still nonetheless packed with variety. Its variety, its amount of content was also one of the most appealing things about the game, that there was so much to do and see. Don't get me wrong, there's still a fair bit to do and see in Destiny 2, post Beyond Light. But it's a night and day difference when you compare the previous states of Destiny 2, post and pre Beyond Light. Literally dozens of activities and game modes, gone. Hours and hours of story content, gone. And just so many strange choices to remove certain pieces of content, like, why are heroic story missions gone? Why are campaign replays gone? Why are adventures gone? And for those of you who don't play Destiny 2, adventures are kind of like side quests. There was also a weekly heroic adventure that you could replay for some high-level loot, but those are gone too? Why, Bungie? Just why are you punishing solo players, people who like to play Destiny 2 single player, like myself? Why are us solo players, why are us players who like the story content in Destiny 2 being punished? Like, what possible reason, what logical reason is there to remove heroic story missions and campaign replays? Just why? It makes no sense! That's the thing about Bungie. That's the thing about Destiny 2. Bungie makes so many decisions that make no sense. There's so many aspects about the game that make no sense. Things that are needlessly convoluted, needlessly obtuse. And it's so damn frustrating, so damn irritating, because Bungie literally has a gold mine on their hands. Destiny 2 has such a spectacular foundation that with just a few changes, a few additions, Destiny 2 could honestly be one of the greatest video games of all time, one of the greatest first-person shooters of all time, one of the greatest MMOs of all time, multiplayer games of all time, free-to-play games of all time. The foundation is there, all of the assets are there. Bungie just needs to stop self-sabotaging themselves. Bungie are they're weirdos. I don't know how else to put it. Bungie are weirdos. At one moment, they're listening to community feedback and implementing things and changing things and adding things that the community asked for. They're genuinely listening to player feedback. And then the next moment, they're changing, adding, or removing things that no one asked for. Now, one of the cool things about Destiny 2 is that it's an always evolving game. You can come back to Destiny 1 month later, 3 months later, a year later, and it's going to be a completely different game in many aspects. That is cool. The fact that Destiny 2 is an always evolving, changing game is enticing, a reason to keep coming back and playing. But at the same time, it's so fucking aggravating, because nothing is consistent. Destiny 2 is always in this constant state of flux and change. And I totally get why so many gamers just don't want to put up with that shit. They want consistency. In the end, despite all of the bullshit in Destiny 2, and despite all of the bullshit from developer Bungie, I still like Destiny 2. I still enjoy it. It annoys me in many regards, but it's still a fun video game to play. I love the game's visuals. I love the game's music. I love just playing Destiny 2. I always have fun playing Destiny 2. Yes, when I think about the game, when I review its features and its content, it gets on my nerves, because I know it could be better. But hey, despite all its issues, despite all its flaws, I'm still here playing it. Like, I acknowledge that Destiny 2 is a deeply flawed game in many regards, due to, for the most part, Bungie being total weirdos. But if I'm being honest with you, and I'm being honest with myself, I still like Destiny 2. Hell, I've always liked Destiny 2. I've always enjoyed the game, and I think I always will. I will never not be satisfied destroying small armies of aliens. Really cool, badass-looking aliens, might I add, with absolutely badass and fantastical weapons and superpowers. So I have no shame in admitting whatever bullshit lies ahead for Destiny 2, this gaming experience. I'm in it for the long haul. Hell, I've been following and keeping up with the story of the game since 2017. Might as well see it through to the end. I will certainly say this about Destiny 2 and the Destiny franchise. It's a video game I will certainly never forget. So, those are my thoughts on the current state of Destiny 2. I hope you enjoyed them. If you liked the video in any way, shape, or form, please be sure to like button. Like button up too, helps me, helps everybody involved in the video. If you hit the like button, please leave a comment in the comments section below. Leave comments, please leave a comment. If you want to help out and support this video, then please share it on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Reddit. And if you want to help out and support me directly, well, there's always Patreon and Ko-Fi. Anyways, that's been a video. I'll see you all later.